My son-in-law accidentally pushed me down the stairs. I ended up in the hospital. Doctors said I survived by a miracle. My daughter cried at my bedside, and he stood in the corner nervously smoking. But when I watched the security camera footage, it turned out that... I'm glad you're here with me. Please listen to my story till the end, and let me know which city you're listening from. That way I can see how far my story has traveled. I never thought my own family would try to kill me. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me start from the beginning, from those quiet days when I still believed that blood meant loyalty, and that the home I built with my own hands would shelter me until my last breath. My name is Robert Mitchell, 73 years old, retired carpenter from Ohio. I spent 40 years building houses for other people, and when my wife Margaret passed 5 years ago, I found myself rattling around in our big colonial house like a marble in an empty jar. The place was too large for one old man, filled with memories that sometimes felt more like ghosts. But it was mine, paid off. Worth about $800,000 in today's market, the realtor told me last year when I'd asked out of curiosity. My daughter Emily was my only child. Smart, beautiful, graduated from state with a business degree. She married Derek Hoffman 7 years ago, a slick-talking financial advisor with perfect teeth and expensive cologne. I never quite warmed to him, if I'm being honest. Something about the way he looked at things, calculating their worth before their meaning. But Emily loved him. And isn't that what matters? Isn't that what I told myself every Thanksgiving, every Christmas, every Sunday dinner? They lived 30 minutes away in a modern townhouse, always talking about their investments, their portfolio, their retirement plans. Derek would corner me at family gatherings, urging me to let him manage my savings. "Robert, you're sitting on a gold mine with this house," he'd say, that practiced smile never quite reaching his eyes. "Let me help you leverage that equity. Make your money work for you." I always declined politely. I didn't need my money to work. I'd already done enough working for a lifetime. The first warning sign came 3 months ago. Emily started visiting more often, which should have made me happy. But the visits felt different, performative. She'd breeze through the house with Derek, commenting on the wasted space, the outdated kitchen, how dangerous the stairs were getting for a man my age. Had I thought about assisted living? Something with on-site medical care? They had brochures. They'd already toured a few places. Beautiful facilities, really. Emily insisted, her voice bright and hollow as a bell. I told them I was fine. I'd lived in this house for 42 years. I knew every creaking board, every loose railing. The stairs weren't dangerous. I climbed them twice a day without incident. That's when Derek's visits became more frequent, always when Emily was at work. He'd drop by with coffee, want to chat. The conversations always circled back to the same thing. My will, my assets, my legacy planning. Had I updated my estate documents? Did I have a living trust? Power of attorney arrangements? Why was he so interested? The incident happened on a Tuesday afternoon. I remember because Tuesday was grocery day, and I'd just returned home with bags of supplies. Derek's car was already in my driveway. Odd, since he hadn't called ahead. He met me at the door, all smiles and offers to help with the groceries. We carried the bags upstairs to the kitchen. The house was built with the bedrooms on the second floor, kitchen and living areas up there too. One of those quirky older designs. As I reached the top of the staircase, arms full of grocery bags, Derek was right behind me. Too close behind me. "Robert, let me grab that heavy bag," he said, reaching around me, and then I felt it, a sharp, deliberate shove against my shoulder blades. The world tilted. The bags flew from my hands. I remember the sickening sensation of falling backward, nothing but air beneath me, my arms windmilling uselessly. The stairs rushed up to meet me, crack, 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 each impact driving the breath from my lungs. Pain exploded through my hip, my shoulder, my skull, then darkness. I woke up in the hospital 3 days later. Fractured hip, broken ribs, severe concussion, internal bleeding. The doctor stood by my bedside, shaking his head. "Mr. Mitchell, you're one lucky man. Another inch to the left when you hit that landing, and we'd be having a very different conversation." Emily was there, red-eyed and crying, gripping my hand. "Dad, oh God, Dad! I thought we'd lost you." Derek stood in the corner, arms crossed, wouldn't meet my eyes. He was smoking, or had been recently. I could smell it on him, that nervous habit he supposedly quit years ago. "What happened?" I croaked through my dry throat. "You fell, Dad," Emily said quickly. Too quickly. "Derek said you missed a step, lost your balance. But I hadn't missed a step. Had I? The hospital kept me for 2 weeks. Insurance covered most of it, but the bills still came to over $40,000. I had good coverage, thank God, but that deductible took a serious bite from my savings. More concerning was what the doctors told me. Full recovery would take months, physical therapy 3 times a week, a home health aide for the first month, modifications to the house, grab bars, a stair lift, maybe a first-floor bedroom setup. I was looking at another $30,000 minimum, out of pocket. Derek offered to help with the arrangements. Of course he did. Emily visited every day during my hospital stay, bringing flowers, magazines, reassurances. Derek came too, though less frequently. When he did appear, he was all concern and helpfulness, discussing my care plan, offering to handle my bills while I recovered. "You just focus on getting better, Robert. Let me manage the logistics." Every offer felt like a hand reaching for my throat. I didn't sleep well in that hospital. Pain was part of it. The hip screamed every time I shifted position. But mostly it was the replay running endlessly through my mind. That moment on the stairs. Derek behind me, too close. The pressure against my back that felt nothing like an accidental bump. Had he pushed me? Or was I a paranoid old man jumping at shadows, my aging brain trying to make sense of a simple fall? Except I hadn't fallen. I'd been pushed. The more I replayed it, the more certain I became. The angle was wrong for a loss of balance. The force was too deliberate. My son-in-law had tried to kill me. The realization settled into my bones like ice water. Why? The answer was obvious, wasn't it? $800,000 in real estate. Another $200,000 in savings and investments. $1 million inheritance for my only child, or rather, for my only child and her calculating husband. How much of this was Derek's idea? How much was Emily's? That question kept me awake more than anything else. My little girl, my Emmy, who I'd rocked to sleep as a baby, who I'd taught to ride a bike, who'd held my hand at Margaret's funeral. Could she really be part of this? I wanted to believe she was innocent. But those visits before the accident, her sudden interest in my living situation, the way she'd so quickly accepted Derek's version of events. "You missed a step, Dad." Without question, without ever asking me what I remembered. Fear wrapped around me like a shroud. I was 73, injured, weakened. They were younger, stronger, positioned to control my care and recovery. What if they tried again? What if the next accident finished what the stairs had started? I couldn't go to the police. With what evidence? Security cameras in my house. I'd never installed any, never needed them. It would be my word against Derek's, and I was the one with the head injury. Who would believe the confused old man claiming his loving family tried to murder him? No. If I wanted to survive this, I needed proof. Real, undeniable proof. The plan started forming on day 9 of my hospital stay. A nurse named Patricia was helping me with physical therapy, teaching me how to use the walker. She was chatty, friendly, and when I mentioned I'd be nervous going home after such a bad fall, she suggested installing cameras. "My dad's 80, lives alone," she said. "We put cameras all over his house after he had a stroke. Not just for security, so we can check on him remotely. There are systems now you can install yourself, stream to your phone, gives everyone peace of mind. Cameras, documentation, evidence. That afternoon, when Emily visited, I mentioned my conversation with Patricia. You know, honey, I'm thinking I should get some security cameras installed, for safety, in case I fall again when I'm alone. Emily's face went carefully neutral. That's probably a good idea, Dad. Derek could help you set them up. No need to trouble him, I said casually. Patricia's nephew does installations. She already gave me his number. A flicker of something crossed Emily's face. Worry, calculation. It was gone too quickly to read. Well, just make sure they're good quality, she said finally. You don't want to waste money on junk that doesn't work properly. Oh, they'd work. I'd make damn sure of that. They released me on a Wednesday. Emily and Derek picked me up, Derek pushing my wheelchair while Emily fussed with my discharge papers. The ride home was quiet, tense in a way I couldn't quite name. Derek kept glancing at me in the rearview mirror, and every time our eyes met, he'd flash that practiced smile. The house looked the same, but felt different, contaminated somehow. Every stair, every corner held potential danger. Emily had hired a home health aide named Mrs. Kowalski, a sturdy Polish woman in her 50s who arrived each morning at 8 and stayed until 4. She helped with bathing, dressing, meals, physical therapy exercises. Her presence was both a comfort and a complication. I waited 3 days before having the cameras installed. Patricia's nephew, a sharp kid named Tyler, came on Saturday morning when I knew Emily and Derek would be busy. They'd mentioned a couple's spa day, some anniversary celebration. Mrs. Kowalski let him in, and I explained what I needed. I want cameras covering the main stairs, the kitchen, the living room, and both entrances. I told Tyler from my rented hospital bed that now occupied the first-floor study. Nothing obvious, and I want the footage going to the cloud, accessible from my phone and iPad. Tyler, do it. The instant I tested it immediately, watching Tyler walk through each room on my iPad screen. The clarity was remarkable, full color, good audio pickup. You could see faces clearly, read expressions. Thank you. He met my eyes, and in that moment I saw he understood everything. I was never here, Mr. Mitchell. Just be careful, okay? Emily noticed the cameras immediately when she visited Sunday afternoon. She stood in the living room, staring up at what looked like a smoke detector, but was actually Tyler's most discreet camera model. Dad, when did you get this installed? Yesterday. That young man Patricia recommended came by. Very efficient. You didn't tell me. There was an edge to her voice. Didn't know I needed permission to install security in my own home. Derek appeared in the doorway, his expression unreadable. How many cameras, Robert? Enough to cover the important areas. Stairways, mainly. Don't want another accident, do we? Something passed between Emily and Derek, a look I couldn't quite decode. Understanding? Worry? Derek's jaw tightened, and he turned away, pulling out his phone. They left earlier than usual that day. Over the next week, I watched them on camera when they didn't know I was watching. I saw Emily searching the living room, presumably for cameras, her movements quick and furtive. I saw Derek on his phone in my kitchen, his voice too low to make out words, but his body language screamed agitation. They knew. They understood what the cameras meant, but they didn't know about the cloud backup. They didn't know I'd already downloaded and saved footage from before Tyler's installation. Footage from the cheap nanny cam I'd ordered online and hidden in a bookshelf, running on battery power the day before I'd mentioned cameras to Emily. Footage from the afternoon Derek visited, unexpectedly, while I was at physical therapy. I watched that video 15 times, my hands trembling with a combination of rage and vindication. Derek, in my study, opening my desk drawers, photographing documents with his phone. Derek, finding my will, the one I'd never shown anyone, and reading it carefully. Derek calling someone and saying clearly, distinctly, "It's all in her name, everything. No trust, no complications. When the old man dies, Emily inherits clean. We just need to be patient a little longer. Then Emily's voice on the other end, faint but audible through phone speaker. How much longer, Derek? He survived the fall. What if he changes the will? He won't have time to change anything if there's another accident soon. A more definitive one. There it was. Incontrovertible, recorded, saved. My daughter, my Emmy, was in on it. The betrayal hurt worse than the fall down the stairs, but the hurt crystallized into something hard and cold and useful. Resolve. They wanted me dead for my money? Fine. Let's see who ends up buried. I spent 2 days sitting with that video evidence, watching it again and again, letting my initial grief harden into something more useful. My lawyer, Jim Hendricks, had handled Margaret's estate and my will updates for 20 years. He was semi-retired now, but I trusted him. More importantly, he'd never liked Derek. I called him Monday morning. Jim, I need to come see you. It's urgent. Robert, you just got out of the hospital. I can come to you. No, I need to come to your office, and I need you to watch something. Tuesday afternoon, Mrs. Kowalski drove me to Jim's office in her sedan. The trip exhausted me. My hip screamed with every bump in the road. But I needed this done outside my house, away from cameras that Derek and Emily might have installed while I was hospitalized. Just because I'd found their surveillance didn't mean they'd found all of mine. Jim's face grew darker with every second of the video. When Derek's words, "a more definitive accident," played through the laptop speaker, Jim stopped the playback and removed his glasses, rubbing his eyes. Jesus Christ, Robert, have you gone to the police? With what? A recording I made secretly in my own home? Ohio's a 2-party consent state. This video might not even be admissible. It establishes intent. Conspiracy to commit murder, or at minimum, attempted murder in your fall. Robert, you need to file a report. I need to protect myself first. If they're arrested and bailed out, what stops them from finishing the job before trial? I'm a vulnerable old man who just had a mysterious fall. How hard would it be to arrange another one? Jim understood. He'd been a defense attorney before switching to estate law. What do you want to do? Change my will. Today. Remove Emily as beneficiary. Everything goes into a trust, proceeds to charity. St. Jude's Children's Hospital specifically. Nothing for Emily or Derek. And I want ironclad medical directives. No family members make decisions about my care. You're my healthcare proxy. Also, I want a police welfare check scheduled weekly. If I miss one, they investigate. Jim started taking notes. They'll know something's up when they find out about these changes. Good, let them know. We spent 3 hours revising everything. Jim had his secretary and paralegal witness the new documents. The will was airtight, vindictive, and legally bulletproof. Every dollar I'd spent 40 years earning would go to children fighting cancer. Emily would get nothing. Derek would get nothing. The fury I felt was clean and cold and sustaining. I knew word would reach them. I'd made sure of it. Jim's secretary was friends with someone at Emily's gym, and I'd specifically asked Jim to mention my visit in confidence to his staff, knowing small-town gossip travels faster than wildfire. Emily called Thursday morning, her voice tight. Dad, is it true you went to see Jim Hendricks? I did. Why? Estate planning. At my age, after a serious accident, seemed prudent. Silence. Then, what kind of estate planning? The kind that ensures my wishes are respected. She hung up. 2 hours later, they were at my door. Both of them. And Mrs. Kowalski hadn't arrived yet. Her daughter had a doctor's appointment. She'd called to say she'd be late. Derek pushed inside without invitation. Emily followed, closing the door behind them. What the hell did you do, Robert? Derek's voice had lost all pretense of friendliness. I stood my ground, leaning on my walker. I updated my will. It's my money, my house, my decision. We're family, Emily said, and I heard the desperation creeping in. Whatever you think happened, I know what happened. I have video. Derek's face went white. Video? Of you going through my desk, of you reading my will, of you and Emily planning another accident. Should I play it for you?" Emily sank onto the couch, her face crumbling. Derek's expression transformed into something ugly, all the charm stripped away to reveal the predator beneath. "You're making a serious mistake, old man. The mistake was trusting you. You think changing your will protects you?" Derek stepped closer, and I felt a spike of real fear. "Accidents happen, especially to elderly people with hip injuries. Maybe you fall again. Maybe you have a stroke. Who's going to prove otherwise? The police, when they investigate. The medical examiner. The video footage that's backed up in multiple locations, set to automatically send to authorities if I don't log in every 48 hours. I was bluffing about that last part, but Derek didn't know that. His hands clenched into fists. Emily grabbed his arm. "Derek, stop, let's just go!" They left, but Derek turned at the door. "This isn't over." After they'd gone, I collapsed into my chair, shaking. Mrs. Kowalski arrived 20 minutes later to find me still trembling. I didn't leave my bed for 3 days after that. The confrontation had drained something essential from me, and I needed time to rebuild my strength, both physical and mental. On the 4th day after the confrontation, Emily came alone. She knocked softly, waited for Mrs. Kowalski to let her in, and approached me with red-rimmed eyes and trembling hands. "Dad, can we talk? Just us?" Mrs. Kowalski looked at me. I nodded, and she retreated to the kitchen, though I knew she'd stay within earshot. Good woman, that Mrs. Kowalski. Emily sat across from me, wringing her hands. "Dad, I'm so sorry. For everything. Derek, he's been under so much pressure at work. He's not thinking clearly. I never wanted—" Her voice broke. "I never wanted you to get hurt. The performance was good. Oscar-worthy, almost. If I hadn't heard her voice on that recording asking how much longer, I might have believed her." "Is that so?" "I love you, Dad. You're my father. When you fell, I was devastated. I thought I'd lost you." Tears streamed down her face now. Real tears. "I know Derek can be intense about money. It's his job. It's made him maybe too focused on financial security. But he'd never actually hurt anyone. Neither would I. I have you on recording, Emily. Both of you. Discussing my accident and planning another one." She looked up at me with Margaret's eyes, the same hazel color, the same shape, and I felt something crack inside my chest. But I kept my face cold, impassive. "That's not what we meant," she said desperately. "It was taken out of context. We were talking about nursing home accidents, how dangerous they can be, why we wanted you to stay home where we could help care for you." The lie was smooth, practiced. They'd had time to prepare this explanation. "Get out, Emily." "Dad, please!" "Get out, and tell Derek this. I'm not changing the will back. I'm not dropping my guard. And if anything happens to me, anything at all, the videos go to the police, the media, and every social contact I have. I've made sure of it." This was partially true. Jim had the videos now, with instructions to release them if I died under suspicious circumstances. Emily left crying. I felt nothing watching her go. Perhaps that's what betrayal does. It burns away the capacity for sympathy, leaving only ash. Derek tried next, 3 days later. He brought expensive whiskey, Macallan 18, my favorite, and an olive branch wrapped in silk words. "Robert, I was out of line the other day. Stress, you know how it is. Emily's been beside herself. She barely sleeps, worried you hate her." He poured 2 glasses, sliding one toward me. "We should talk. Man to man. Family. I didn't touch the whiskey. Say what you came to say. Look, we both know family inheritance creates tension. It's natural. But Emily's your daughter, your only child. Whatever you think of me, don't punish her. She doesn't deserve to be cut out of your life's work. She discussed killing me for that life's work." Derek's mask slipped for a moment, a flash of cold fury, before sliding back into place. "You misunderstood. But fine, let's say there was a misunderstanding. Tensions ran high. Things were said. We can move past this. You add Emily back into the will, we agree to no more hostility, and everyone wins. And if I don't? He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Then you're a stubborn old man who'll die alone, estranged from his only daughter. Is that really what Margaret would have wanted? Using my dead wife's name was a mistake. My calm cracked, just slightly. Get out of my house. Derek stood, leaving the whiskey. Think about it, Robert. Pride is expensive. Sometimes it costs everything. After he left, Mrs. Kowalski emerged from the kitchen. Mr. Mitchell, I don't like those two. Neither do I, Mrs. Kowalski. My daughter, she's a detective. Cleveland Police. You want I can ask her to maybe drive by more often? Unofficial, just checking. I looked at this sturdy Polish woman who'd bathed me, fed me, listened to my story without judgment. Would she do that? For me, yes. And I'll tell you something else. My friend Patricia, the nurse who recommended those cameras. Her nephew Tyler, he's my daughter's boyfriend. He already told her about your situation. She knows. So I wasn't alone. The knowledge settled over me like a warm blanket. Mrs. Kowalski, I'd appreciate that very much. Done. And Mr. Mitchell? You're doing the right thing. Those two, they got greedy eyes. I seen it before. That evening, Mrs. Kowalski's daughter, Detective Sarah Kowalski, stopped by in plain clothes. She took copies of my recordings, my medical reports, my timeline of events. Mr. Mitchell, I can't open an official investigation based on this alone, but I can make sure patrol units swing by regularly. And if anything happens, anything at all, this goes straight to homicide detectives. For the first time since the fall, I slept through the night. 2 weeks passed in relative quiet. Physical therapy was progressing. I could manage stairs with the railing now, though my hip still ached. Mrs. Kowalski came daily, and Detective Sarah Kowalski's patrol car appeared in my neighborhood at irregular intervals. Emily called twice, left voicemails I didn't return. Derek sent a text. We need to talk about your health situation. I ignored it. Then I almost didn't let them in. But curiosity won out. I wanted to see what their next move would be. Dad, please! Emily said through the screen door. We brought dinner. We just want to talk. Really talk. No more fighting. They came in all smiles and conciliatory gestures. Emily arranged the flowers in Margaret's old vase, a detail designed to trigger nostalgia. Derek heated the casserole, moving through my kitchen like he belonged there. The domesticity of it all felt surreal, sinister. We sat at the dinner table, the three of us, plates of chicken casserole between us like a peace offering. For 15 minutes they kept up the charade. Emily talked about her work. Derek discussed a recent golf game. Surface-level pleasantries. Waiting. Then Derek set down his fork. Robert, we need to address the elephant in the room. Which elephant? The one where you pushed me down the stairs, or the one where you and Emily planned my murder? Emily flinched. Derek's jaw tightened. We've been over this. That's not what happened, and that recording proves nothing except that you're willing to spy on your own family. The recording proves conspiracy. The recording proves you're paranoid. Derek's voice hardened. A 73-year-old man with a head injury, making wild accusations against the family members caring for him. Do you know how that sounds? It sounds like truth. Emily leaned forward, and I saw something new in her face. Something calculating that reminded me disturbingly of Derek. Dad, let's be realistic. You're elderly, you're injured, and you're vulnerable. You need family. You need support. This vendetta against us is only hurting you. I don't need you. I have Mrs. Kowalski. I have Jim handling my affairs. I have police welfare checks scheduled. For now. Derek said quietly. But Mrs. Kowalski's employment is temporary. Jim's 80 years old himself. And police welfare checks? He laughed, but there was no humor in it. Those can be cancelled. All it takes is one call from your concerned daughter explaining that the checks are upsetting you, triggering paranoid episodes. The threat was clear, carefully worded to avoid explicit admission, but unmistakable in intent. Emily picked up the thread seamlessly. We're trying to protect you, Dad, from yourself. These delusions about us trying to hurt you, they're symptoms. Maybe of the head injury, Maybe early dementia. We've been consulting with doctors about getting you evaluated. Ice flooded my veins. You wouldn't dare. We would if we had to, Derek said, and now the mask was completely off. His face was cold, predatory. For your own safety, a competency hearing, medical evaluation. If a doctor determines you're not capable of managing your own affairs, Emily becomes your legal guardian. She makes decisions about your care, your finances, your living situation. You can't do that, Jim. Jim's your lawyer, not your guardian. And in a competency hearing, our testimony would carry significant weight. Your daughter and son-in-law both worried about your declining mental state. The surveillance cameras you installed because of paranoid beliefs. The wild accusations of attempted murder. The sudden, inexplicable decision to disinherit your only child. Derek smiled. It paints a picture, Robert. Emily's voice was softer, but no less threatening. It doesn't have to be this way. Change the will back. Drop this nonsense about us trying to hurt you. We'll pretend none of this happened, and you can live out your remaining years peacefully, in your own home, with family who loves you. And if I refuse? They exchanged a look. Derek stood, buttoning his jacket. Then we'll do what's necessary to protect you from yourself. The competency petition is already drafted. One more incident, one more fall, one more confused episode, one more paranoid accusation to the wrong person, and we file it. You'll end up in a memory care facility, and everything you own will be managed by Emily as your legal guardian anyway. You'd lock me away in a nursing home. We'd get you the care you need, Emily corrected, but her eyes were hard. This is your last chance, Dad. Be reasonable. They left the casserole and flowers. After the door closed behind them, I sat at the table for a long time, my hands shaking. Not just from fear, though fear was there, the very real terror of being declared incompetent, institutionalized, stripped of autonomy. But beneath the fear, something else grew. Rage. Pure, clarifying rage. They'd shown their true faces now. No more pretense. They'd threatened me with imprisonment disguised as care, with a legal system they'd manipulate to steal everything I'd built. Fine, if they wanted war, they'd get it. But they'd forgotten something crucial. I might be old, but I wasn't helpless, and I'd already set my pieces on the board. The competency petition was filed 3 days later. I knew because Jim called me immediately, fury vibrating through his voice. Robert, they actually did it. Emily and Derek filed for guardianship, claiming you're mentally incompetent due to traumatic brain injury and possible dementia. There's a hearing scheduled in 2 weeks. Good, I said calmly. Good? Robert, if they win... They won't win. Trust me. I'd spent those 3 days preparing. Not alone. Mrs. Kowalski had rallied an army. Detective Sarah Kowalski had connected me with an ADA she trusted. Tyler had provided additional technical expertise. Jim had prepared a legal response that would bury them. But most importantly, I'd made calls. To old friends, to former colleagues, to people I'd built houses for over 40 years. To my doctor, Dr. Brennan, who'd treated me for 3 decades. To my physical therapist, who documented my cognitive sharpness and clarity throughout recovery. To Patricia, the nurse whose recommendation had started this whole chain of protection. I'd built a community around me, and they'd built a wall around themselves. The guardianship hearing was held in a small courtroom on a Tuesday morning. Emily and Derek arrived with their lawyer, a slick young woman in an expensive suit. They looked confident, prepared. Emily had even managed tears as she explained to the judge how worried she was about her father's declining mental state. Judge Patricia Morrison, no relation to my nurse friend Patricia, listened impassively as Emily described my paranoid delusions, my unfounded accusations, my erratic behavior since the head injury. Their lawyer presented medical records showing my injuries, suggesting cognitive impairment. She cited my sudden will change as evidence of impaired judgment. She painted a picture of a confused, vulnerable old man who needed protection. Then it was our turn. Jim stood. and his opening was devastating. Your Honor, this is not a case of a family concerned about an elderly parent. This is an attempted murder cover-up disguised as guardianship proceedings. Emily's lawyer jumped up. Your Honor, that's outrageous. I have evidence. Jim continued calmly. Video evidence, medical expert testimony, and a pattern of behavior that clearly demonstrates this petition is filed in bad faith for financial gain. The video played on the courtroom monitor. Derek in my study, photographing my will. His voice through the phone. When the old man dies, Emily inherits clean. Emily's response, what if he changes the will? Derek's chilling answer, he won't have time if there's another accident soon. The color drained from Emily's face. Derek sat frozen, his lawyer frantically whispering to him. But we weren't done. Dr. Brennan testified next, explaining that I had no cognitive impairment whatsoever. Mr. Mitchell's mental faculties are completely intact. He's sharp, aware, and fully capable of managing his affairs. I've examined him 3 times since the injury. There's no evidence of dementia or incompetence. My physical therapist followed, describing my progress, my clear communication, my appropriate emotional responses and decision-making. Detective Sarah Kowalski took the stand in uniform. Your Honor, I've been monitoring Mr. Mitchell's situation at his home care aide's request. The video evidence suggests Mr. Mitchell may have been the victim of attempted homicide. We're prepared to open a formal investigation. Emily made a small sound, half gasp, half sob. Then came the character witnesses. 6 of them. Friends, neighbors, former clients, all testifying to my mental clarity, my sound judgment, my justified fear given the evidence. Finally, Jim presented the communications I'd saved. Derek's threatening text messages. Emily's voicemail saying, "You're making this harder than it needs to be." Derek's email to Emily, sent the day before they filed the petition. "Once he's in managed care, we'll have access to everything. Let the facility bills drain the estate if necessary. We'll still end up with more than the nothing he's leaving us now." Judge Morrison's face grew harder with each piece of evidence. When she spoke, her voice was ice. "I'm denying this petition. Furthermore, I'm referring this matter to the District Attorney's Office for criminal investigation. Mr. Mitchell's evidence suggests conspiracy to commit murder, attempted murder, and elder abuse. I'm also issuing a protective order. Emily Hoffman and Derek Hoffman are to have no contact with Robert Mitchell except through legal counsel." Emily was crying now, really crying. Derek sat rigid, his face blank with shock. Their lawyer gathered papers with shaking hands. As they were escorted out, Derek turned to look at me. The hatred in his eyes was pure and absolute. But behind it, I saw something more important. Fear. For the first time, he understood he'd lost. I felt nothing but cold satisfaction. The criminal investigation moved faster than I'd expected. Detective Sarah Kowalski handed the case to the Elder Abuse Unit, and within a week, both Derek and Emily were arrested. The charges were extensive. Conspiracy to commit murder, attempted murder, elder abuse, fraud, and making false statements in a guardianship proceeding. Their bail was set at $500,000 each. Derek's parents mortgaged their house to make his bail. Emily's lawyer argued for release on her own recognizance, citing her clean record and community ties. The judge denied it, noting the severity of the charges and the documented planning involved. Emily spent 6 days in county jail before Derek's parents reluctantly posted her bail too. The conditions were strict: GPS monitoring, no contact with me, surrender of passports, and weekly check-ins with probation. Their lives began to unravel in ways that gave me grim satisfaction. Derek was fired from his financial advisory firm within 48 hours of his arrest. His employer released a statement about maintaining client trust and ethical standards. The state licensing board opened an investigation into whether he'd committed fraud with other clients' estates. Several of his elderly clients came forward with concerns about their accounts. What started as one case of attempted inheritance fraud mushroomed into a pattern. Emily lost her position at the marketing company where she'd worked for 8 years. Her employer cited conduct incompatible with company values. Her LinkedIn profile disappeared. Her social media went dark as former friends and colleagues publicly distanced themselves. The media coverage was brutal. Local news stations ran the story. Daughter and son-in-law charged in elderly father's attempted murder for inheritance. The video I'd recorded, edited to show just the damning conversation, was leaked to reporters. It went viral. Their house went up for sale 3 weeks after the arrest. They'd leveraged themselves to the hilt. The townhouse, financed with minimal down payment, 2 car leases, credit cards maxed out maintaining their lifestyle. Derek's legal fees alone were projected at over $200,000 for a trial defense. They couldn't afford it. The preliminary hearing was brief. Jim attended as my representative since I was still their target and potential witness. The judge found probable cause on all counts. The case was bound over for trial. Derek's lawyer attempted plea negotiations. The DA, a woman named Rebecca Chen who specialized in elder abuse cases, shut them down immediately. Your clients planned, attempted, and nearly succeeded in murdering a 73-year-old man for financial gain. They documented their conspiracy in their own words. We're going to trial, and we're seeking maximum sentences. I attended the trial. All 6 weeks of it. Mrs. Kowalski accompanied me daily, helping me navigate the courthouse steps and long hours of sitting. Jim sat beside me, quietly explaining legal procedures. The prosecution's case was methodical and devastating. They presented the video evidence, the medical reports from my injuries, expert testimony about the fall biomechanics proving I'd been pushed. They showed the pattern, the increased visits before the incident, Derek's financial analysis of my estate, the conversations about accidents, their threatening behavior after I'd changed my will. Derek's lawyer tried to claim the recording was inadmissible due to 2-party consent laws. The judge ruled it admissible. The conversation occurred in my home, the recording was made by me in my own property, and there was a law enforcement exception for evidence of planned violent felonies. Emily's lawyer attempted a different strategy. Painting her as a victim of Derek's manipulation, a devoted daughter led astray by a controlling husband. It might have worked if the prosecution hadn't presented the emails. Emily's emails to Derek. How much longer do we have to pretend to care? Once he's gone, we should sell that house immediately. I hate that outdated dump. Make sure there's no investigation angle, natural consequences of his age and injury. Her own words destroyed her defense. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. Guilty on all counts, both of them. Sentencing came 2 months later. The judge, the same Judge Morrison from the guardianship hearing, showed no mercy. This court has seen many disturbing cases, but the premeditated attempt to murder one's own father for inheritance money represents a particularly heinous betrayal of family trust and moral obligation. Derek, 25 years for attempted murder, conspiracy, and elder abuse, sentences to run consecutively. With good behavior, he'd be eligible for parole in 19 years. He'd be 73, my current age, when he got out. Emily, 20 years. The judge noted her full participation in the conspiracy, her active planning role, and her continued deception during guardianship proceedings. Parole eligibility in 15 years. They were led out in handcuffs. Emily was crying. Derek's face was blank, defeated. Neither looked at me. I felt no triumph in that moment, just exhaustion, and maybe the faintest touch of grief for the daughter I'd thought I had, who'd never really existed at all. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed. I gave one statement. Justice has been served. I hope this case reminds everyone that elder abuse is a serious crime and that elderly people deserve protection, respect, and the right to live without fear in their own homes. That night, I slept deeply for the first time in months. 6 months after the sentencing, I sold the house. It wasn't an easy decision. Margaret and I had built our lives there. 42 years of memories soaked into those walls. But the stairs held different memories now. Every time I climbed them, I felt Derek's hands against my back, heard the sickening crack of my bones hitting wood. The house sold in 3 days for $825,000. The market had gone up. After realtor fees and closing costs, I walked away with $780,000. Combined with my savings and investments, I had just over $1 million. More than enough for what came next. I bought a single-story ranch house in a retirement community called Meadowbrook Estates. 2 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, an open floor plan with no stairs anywhere. Wide doorways for walker access. Grab bars already installed in the bathrooms. A small yard I could manage. A community center with activities. A gym with a heated pool for physical therapy. Mrs. Kowalski helped me move. Her daughter Sarah helped too, off-duty, carrying boxes and setting up my new bedroom. Tyler installed a simple security system. More for peace of mind than real need in this community. "You did good, Mr. Mitchell," Sarah said, as we sat on my new patio that first evening, drinking lemonade. "You protected yourself, and you got justice. Not many people can say that." "I had help," I reminded her. "A lot of help." "Yeah, but you had the guts to ask for it. That's what saved you." Life in Meadowbrook was different, quieter. I joined the woodworking club. They had a full workshop in the community center. Turns out 40 years of carpentry left me with skills other retirees admired. I started teaching classes, basic furniture building, repair work, how to use hand tools safely. I made friends, real friends. Bill, a retired firefighter with a wicked sense of humor. Margaret, not my Margaret, but a widow with the same name who made terrible coffee and excellent cookies. Tom, a former Marine who organized community poker nights. Mrs. Kowalski visited weekly at first, then monthly as I settled in. "You don't need me anymore," she said with satisfaction. "You got yourself a whole community now." "I'll always need you," I told her. "You saved my life, Mrs. Kowalski." "You saved your own life. I just helped a little." I established the Margaret Mitchell Memorial Scholarship at the local community college. Full tuition for students studying skilled trades, carpentry, electrical work, plumbing. The kinds of jobs that built America and built my life. The scholarship ran $20,000 a year, funded from my estate in perpetuity. Jim helped me set up a charitable trust. When I died, everything would go to St. Jude's Children's Hospital and the scholarship fund. Nothing for Emily, not $1. Meanwhile, Derek and Emily's lives continued their downward spiral. I didn't seek out information about them, but it found me anyway. Small-town connections, Jim's updates, occasional news articles. Derek was housed in a medium-security state prison 3 hours away. His parents had disowned him after the trial. His father gave an interview to the local paper expressing shame and apologizing to me personally. Derek's former clients won civil judgments against him totaling over $3 million for financial misconduct uncovered during the investigation. He'd been stealing from elderly clients for years. He'd never pay it off. His wages in prison were 70 cents an hour working in the laundry. Word from inside, Jim had connections through former clients who were defense attorneys, was that Derek wasn't handling prison well. He'd been in 3 fights, spent time in isolation, and had gained 40 pounds from depression and stress-eating commissary food. His expected parole date kept getting pushed back due to disciplinary violations. Emily was in a women's prison 2 hours in the opposite direction. She'd tried to appeal the conviction, claiming ineffective counsel. The appeal was denied. She'd enrolled in prison classes, business administration courses, trying to salvage some kind of future for when she eventually got out. But the social death was complete. Her former friends had publicly condemned her. A Facebook group called Justice for Robert Mitchell had over 50,000 members, many sharing stories of their own elderly relatives being financially abused or exploited by family. Emily's name had become synonymous with elder abuse and greed. She'd written me letters from prison, 6 of them. I'd received them but never opened any. Jim had reviewed them at my request. Liability concerns, he'd said, in case she made threats. But apparently they were apologies, explanations, justifications, pleas for understanding, forgiveness, maybe financial help for her commissary account. I burned them in my fireplace without reading them. Some bridges, once destroyed, should stay destroyed. One evening, sitting on my patio watching the sunset, Tom came by with 2 beers. "You ever regret it?" he asked. "Putting your own daughter in prison?" I thought about it. Really thought about it. "No," I said finally. "I regret raising someone who could plan to murder me. I regret not seeing who she really was earlier, but stopping her? Protecting myself? No regrets about that." "Good man," Tom said, and we drank our beers in comfortable silence. My new life wasn't what I'd planned, but it was mine, lived on my terms, surrounded by people who valued me for who I was rather than what I owned. And I was still alive to live it. So that's my story. My daughter and son-in-law tried to kill me for inheritance money, and I sent them both to prison. Would you have done the same, or would you have forgiven family? Let me know in the comments below. If you found this story valuable, please subscribe to hear more real-life accounts of people overcoming family betrayal, fighting elder abuse, and finding justice. I share new stories every week. Remember, you're never too old to protect yourself, and you're never alone if you're willing to ask for help. Thanks for listening, and stay safe out there.